Hi everyone, so this is Miss Ramsay. I'm going to be reading The Pebble in My Pocket, A History of Our Earth by Meredith Hopper and Chris Cody. So I don't know if you remember at the beginning of the year, we read a little bit of it when we learned about rocks and soils, but we said we would finish it when it got to the Stone Age topic. So I'm going to read it now. The pebble in my pocket is round and smooth and brown. I found it on the ground. Where did you come from, Pebble? Under the volcano, melted rock shifts like thick treacle. The molten rock is 9 times hotter than boiling water. The rocks covering the earth are cold and hard. They form a thin crust like a rind, about 30 kilometres thick beneath the continents, but only 5 kilometres thick under the oceans. The deeper you go down inside the crust, the hotter it gets. Below the crust lies mantle rock, so hot it can start creeping and shifting and melting. The ground shakes. Gas hisses from the top of the volcano. Columns of purple ash shoot into the sky. Glowing fragments hurl throughout the air. Then the lava comes. Molten rock spilling red hot down the volcano sides and flowing out over the land. The lava cools, it hardens, forming a thick, wrinkled skin of a new rock. Everything is still. The seas swarm with living things, but nothing is living on this land. It is 480 million years ago. Slowly, very slowly, the surface of the earth begins rising. The rock made from the lava begins to tilt up, slowly, very slowly. All the rocks underneath go up. Everything that happens to be on this piece of earth is rising. Huge slabs of rock tilt and twist. The land folds and buckles and crumples. 2 great land masses, like giant plates, are colliding, pushing against each other, making mountains. Every winter snow falls, every summer the snow melts, and the sun shines on the rocks. Heat makes the rocks expand, cold makes them shrink. They expand and shrink, expand and shrink. Then they crack. Water seeps into the cracks of the rocks. On cold nights the water freezes. Clear crystals of ice push inside the cracks, wedging pieces of rock slowly apart. Rain falls on the mountains and runs down the rocks. Little leafless plants grow in damp places, because now some things are living on the land. It is 395 million years ago. In the middle of summer, in the middle of the night, an enormous slice of cliff splits away from the mountainside and crashes down, shattering into fragments. Pieces of rock rumble and bounce down the mountain like a river of stone. Rain falls on the new jagged edges of the rock, and the hot sun heats it, and the frost cools it. The wind blows every day. Teeny specks of sand blow against the corners and edges of the rock, nibbling at their sharpness. Slowly, slowly, the sharp edges begin to be smoothed. Everything on the surface of the earth is slowly being eroded and broken down into smaller and smaller pieces. Boulders powder into streaks of mud, cliffs crumble to grains of sand. The tops of mountains disintegrate into pebbles. It has always happened. It will always happen. It is happening now. All that it needs is time and the weather. Worm-like creatures burrow in moss jungles and millipedes shelter under the rocks. It is 390 million years ago. The rain pours down, loosening the earth. Mud and rocks slide off the mountainside into a river. The river rushes along, dragging silt, sand, gravel, boulders, stripping away the mountain's surface, layer by layer. The river tumbles and rolls the rocks, chipping edges, smoothing corners, rubbing it against other rocks. Gradually the rocks become rounder and smaller. The river widens, flowing brown and slow. The current nudges the rock past forests of fern where spiders hide. It eases the rock through swamps where fish haul themselves out of the water and breathe the air. The rock travels for thousands and thousands of years. When it reaches the sea, it is smooth, round, brown pebble. It It is 375 million years ago. Boulders and rocks embedded deep in the soil of the mountains look like permanent residents. They aren't. They're just passing through, like everything else, all on the way to the bottom of the sea. The river drops the pebble on the beach filled with other pebbles. The waves of the sea wash them backwards and forwards, grinding them up and grinding them down, rattling and clinking the pebbles together. Stripy pebbles, spotted pebbles, grey, brown, and white pebbles. Each pebble has come from its own special rock. Each was made in its own time and place. Shiny grains of sand settle between the pebbles. The sand fills the spaces like the mixture between pieces of fruit in a pudding. Slowly, the sea starts to flood the land. The sea covers the pebbles packed in the grains of sand. Gradually, the sand hardens, forming a new layer of rock, a conglomerate pudding stone rock. The sea covers the cliffs and drowns the mouth of the river and washes into the forests. It is 340 million years ago. Creatures swarm and slither in the warm sea, the teeny bodies of dead sea creatures drifting down onto the seabed layer upon layer. Fine mud drifts down, and sand. As each layer presses down, the layers beneath slowly harden, and the particles cement together to form more rock layers of sedimentary rock under the sea. The surface of the earth begins to rise, lifting the layers of rock to make new land above the water. Club moss trees crowd in dank swamps, and giant amphibians hunt amongst rotting wood and buzzing insects. But the pebble is still buried deep under the ground beneath layers of sandstone and mudstone and limestone. It is 300 million years ago. The surface of the earth continues rising. It goes up 1 metre every 2,000 years. The layers of sandstone and limestone, mudstone and conglomerate, which were once under the sea, are pushed up and up. They tilt and fold and crack. In 10 million years they have risen 5,000 metres, and now there are seashells and the fossils of dead sea creatures on the top of the mountains. Dry winds blow sand from distant deserts. The layers of rock wear away, as they always do, and in some places the rock with the pebbles stuck in it begins to show through. It starts splitting and breaking into slabs. A slab tumbles down a cliff. A reptile with leathery wings and a long thin tail glides onto the slab. A dinosaur with legs as big as tree trunks treads on the slab and cracks a lump off. It is 155 million years ago. At night, small mammals scuttle across the lump of rock while the dinosaurs sleep. In the day, they crouch under the rock while the dinosaurs hunt. Gradually, the mixture holding the pebbles together crumbles into grains of sand. The pebble is released. It is 67 million years ago. A meat-eating dinosaur attacks a plant-eating dinosaur. In the fight, the pebble skids into a river. The pebble settles on a sandbar with dinosaur bones and driftwood, drowned moths and flowers. Because there are now flowers on this land, it is 65 million years ago. The river flows in a new course, and the pebble lies buried in the old riverbed. The dinosaurs have long since died out. Now grass grows and herds of long-legged animals graze above the pebble. A furry two-horned rodent pushes past the pebble in its burrow. It is 15 million years ago. The wind blows colder and colder. Snow falls. Blizzards blot out the light. The snow packs down layer on layer. Deep underneath the surface snow, the old snow turns into clear blue glacier ice. The glacier starts shifting, moving slowly downhill, grinding forward, a monstrous river of ice scraping across the land, scouring out valleys, sculpting mountains. The glacier picks up and moves everything in its way. It picks up the pebble and freezes it deep in its icy blue depths. The glacier grinds on for thousands and thousands of years, roaring and groaning as the ice slides and shifts. Its surface is split with shadowy crevices. Gradually, the weather begins to warm up, and the glaciers begin to melt. The ice releases its grip. Boulders, rocks, pebbles, sand, gravel are all dropped on the ground, mixing together in great jumbled heaps. Old rocks, young rocks, rocks made under the sea, and rocks formed under the crust of the earth, rocks from close by and rocks from far away, all lie on top of each other. Everything has been moved from where it used to be. Mammoths lumber past. A baby mammoth treads on the pebble, pushing it deep into the heap of stones. It is 1,000,000 years ago. Floods leave the pebble high on a river bank. People come to fish and hunt and build shelters. They stand on the pebble and sleep on it and drop grease from half-cooked lumps of meat. In the night a rat creeps in, sniffing for food. A boy picks up the pebble to throw at the rat. He misses. The pebble drops under a bush and down a hole. It is 200,000 years ago. The cold comes back. People move away. Massive ice shelters cover the land, covering forests and meadows. When warmth returns, the melting ice drops the pebble into a lake. It sinks into the soft mud, while hippos wallow above in the warm water. It is 125,000 years ago. A new glacier gorges the pebble out of the bottom of the lake and pushes it, collapsed in its clear blue depths, for thousands and thousands of years. Then the ice retreats, leaving the pebble on the slope of a valley. Shaggy bison graze the long grass. New people come, hunting for food. Saber-toothed tigers watch. They can hunt what they like. It is 12,000 years ago. The pebble hasn't moved much since the last ice age. It has been kicked and trodden on by animals and people. Cattle have grazed over it. Farmers have grown crops on it. A new road runs near it. Houses are built next to the road, and their foundations cover rocks and earth, pebbles and gravel. But the houses miss the pebble. It lies smooth and warm in the sun. The pebble in my pocket is round and smooth and brown. I found it on the ground. My pebble has been on the top of mountains and under the sea. It has been buried in ice and buried in rock. It has been covered in drying sand and tropical forest. It has been flung and dropped, frozen, soaked and baked, squeezed and squashed. It has been stood on and sheltered under and used. It has travelled huge distances over immense periods of time. My pebble is 480 million years old. So far. Keep travelling, pebble. Every pebble in the world is different from every other pebble. Every pebble has its own story. Pick up a pebble and you are holding a little piece of the history of our planet.